Yep. And hello. Hi, Michael. This is our rendition of our what will be live broadcasting of our presentation at the Digital Marketing Conference in New York in just a couple of days with HSMI's Digital Marketing Conference. It's all starts with strategy. Your lead point on this, and thank you very much for the invitation of me joining you. This is our recorded version, which is also our dry run version. So for those that do get the opportunity to watch this, because we mentioned it and feature it in our conversation during the live presentation, you'll see excerpts of us discussing points that maybe we want to include, have yet to include, or some modifications to this, and also some restructuring of time. It will not match the time of the live presentation since that's constrained to 35 minutes. In all intent, probably will run over, but we will go over through all the content and probably additional content simply because we have the latitude to do so. So with that in mind, Michael Klein, take it away.
Sure. Well, thank you so much for having us, Lauren, and everyone watching. Today, we're going to go over the Digital Marketing Strategy Conference breakout session that we're going to be doing. The breakout session is the following: the intersection between revenue management and digital marketing analytics. The basic premise behind this is hoteliers are under increasing pressure to extract knowledge and insights from vast amounts of data. And we're going to try to show a few things today. What does it really mean when it comes to data analytics? What data should be shared and incorporated across the two disciplines? How could systems seamlessly share and utilize data in real time? And then finally, how can predictive analytics drive profits at every step of the guest journey? So we'll go right into the beef of the presentation here. There we go. So today what we're going to cover is where did we come from? The current state of intersecting analytics, how we're unlocking capabilities today, the future state, really looking into conversion optimization, true customer personalization via predictive analytics, and then finally, the analytically enabled customer journey. So where did we come from? There we go. So you can see here, I'll tee it up to Lauren to go over the where did we come from. Lauren?
I was on mute because I didn't want to make any background noise for you. So let's take ourselves back a little bit, about 10 years or plus, for those maybe a little older. When you went into your computer during the course of the day, you would come into this screen and go, ta-da, here we are, we're logged in. Maybe not the exact same screen, but pretty darn close to it. Click, please.
Sure.
Which would bring us to opening up an Excel sheet and checking out the data that our night auditor hopefully loaded up for us so we can check whatever it is that we were looking for that we made the spreadsheet initially for. Click. And of course, getting our wonderful handy dandy 9-pin printer with, of course, boxes of stacks of reams of perforated tracked paper, hopefully not producing your arrivals report as this picture looks like, but you had to do it every day. Then you would go over back to your computer and click. Look at your web analytics. Yes, this was the chance for you to see what traffic actually came to your monstrously undetermined website of opportunity. Go ahead and click again. But no worries, we had a counter. We would actually know how many people visited our website just to see how successful we were in the wonderful world of new technology. Click. But then, well, things changed. We actually began to get better analytics. And again, strangely enough, this screenshot is around 8 years old. So it's not that far back. Urchin was, of course, swallowed up by Google, which turned into the base of the analytics programs that we deal with today. But wow, we were just thinking, my gosh, this is amazing. Look at the data. We got geographic data. We got what the heck is it? Who knows? But you know what? It's some pretty cool stuff. So with that in mind, we then would check and see, what is going on in OTAs today? Or we didn't even call them OTAs. We called them online travel agencies. And this is usually the screen we'd probably see and type in ourselves, make sure that we check the fax machine, that we received all the booking confirmations off our fax machine. Do we send in the data? Do we upload our inventory manually onto the platform? That was the world that we were in not that long ago. Mr. Michael.
Sure. All right. So really covering the first 20 years or so of both revenue management and digital marketing. The hotel space, really around both for about 20 years, revenue management a little bit longer. So you can see here, the first 20 years really represented by silos. They're both relatively new in the landscape, both developed and existed in silos, operating kind of independently. So for the revenue management silo, you can really see, we really were focused on hotel demand for room revenue, just purely room revenue. We really worked in a silo and said, how can we get our RevPAR? And you can see the STAR report there, occupancy, ADR, and RevPAR. You can see the room forecasting from a forecast snapshot report, really based solely on pace and percentage growth, not really factoring in the elasticity of demand. The customer segmentation, really not based on true customer value, really based on the room revenue potential and so forth. So this is kind of the old style of revenue management. And we'll go into digital marketing, Lauren.
It's kind of fun to think back to what we used to look for when it comes to counters and information. We looked generally at general statistics. We looked at visitors, we looked at page views, we looked at durations and bounce rates. They were mainly SEO driven or search engine optimization driven events. We really weren't in the world of advertising as much. There weren't really a lot of opportunities for us to advertise. We did some email campaigns from addresses that we may have garnered, maybe at a time when people actually were a little bit free-handed about the emails that they gave us because they didn't really realize the real value back then. And we looked at more impact-driven strategies, no real source metrics, but a lot of implied metrics. Things like, well, if we had 1,000 people that visit us and 100 people came to the website because we had a counter for it and 2 people booked, well, we're figuring that our conversion is this, which means if there was a length of stay and an ADR, we would imply the math associated with it. There was no real actual metrics of where did these people come from? Why did they visit? What did they see? What did they look at? What converted them? This information didn't really exist for us. And we had a challenge on the ability for the ads that we did run to track on their accuracy. We were told a lot of times the volume of work that or volume of ads that we were getting. Nicole, while we're doing this, but we really weren't always certain because the people that were serving our ads were also the people telling us the metrics. So we always had to just trust that the numbers were matching, even though the revenues generated weren't really matching because we, again, had implied metrics. We didn't really know if it was coming from the ads that we were servicing. We also had the perspective that it was either a fad or a trend that we were dealing with, because in all honesty, the fad or trend was for those who believed in the internet, we felt truly that the 3 to 5% current contribution that it had would grow massively. And for those who thought that faxes and call-ins and call centers and magazine ads and billboards and so forth were the way of the future, as has always been, then they considered that the internet was more of just a fad. And of course, at that time, the OTAs, online travel agencies, were the enemy. We would never give them the same inventory we gave them after 2001. Or was that 2008? Oh, well, next time, though, we're never going to give them the same amount of inventory, whatever happens. So that's kind of where we came from for the digital marketing silo.
All right. So in our current state, you can see here the difference between the silos that existed to really starting to form that partnership. So revenue optimization, digital marketing, working a little bit better. KPIs have begun to encompass a more holistic view, but we're not yet there. That's where the picture really dictates here. So you can see here, current state, we're starting to see a clear differentiation between reporting and analytics. And I think this is one of the biggest takeaways from where we are in our current state. So really reporting, informational summaries, monitoring towards the analytics, that visual data exploration, taking meaningful insights. It may come from reports, it may come from a visual standpoint, but that's really where we are in our current state. So I'll show you here. We summarize this through an ever-changing revenue and profit optimization team. There's the team. And you can see kind of where did we come from and our current state. So kind of existing in a little bit of silos. Where did we come from? You have your revenue management, finance, sales, and operations. Those are usually people that sat in that revenue strategy meeting, really moving towards that current state where you can see the addition in green there of marketing. So really the major difference is we're not solely focused on top line revenue generation. We're starting to look at that profit mark, the top and bottom line of the sheets. We're also trying to bring in new KPIs from the marketing team so that we really can see key insights to demand, things that we didn't have before, that digital marketing really brings to the table. Now we have that in our current team. So going through, in order to really bring this profit optimization team in our current state to where we want it to be, we really need to, from an analytics perspective, and this is my world, analytics with MGM Resorts, we really need to build a framework for successful analytics. So I've developed a little bit of a framework here, 7 steps that we're going to go into a little bit step by step and kind of show you what I mean in terms of driving the framework that will unlock the capabilities we need in our current state. All right. And Lauren, why don't you handle collaboration here?
Well, you and I have conversations about this. We really realized that the opportunity exists for us to communicate based on trust. It was a while there that digital marketing revenue management was struggling to who was going to lead whom when it comes to this process. And it really boils down to a key element that revenue management has the horizon view. They're the ones that see the distance as to what forecasts need to be done for revenue generation and what it is metric-wise that's going to attain that. Marketing then turns into the facilitator, the ones that help create the pathway between here where we are to where we need to be. And so with that, you need to be able to communicate in terminology that both is understanding. So one of the first and primary steps of this is that a willingness to accept that without both of us, we're going to get halfway there. With both of us, we actually can make it all the way.
Very good. So that brings us to our next step here. Mouse, there we go. Sorry about that. Common vernacular. So probably the most important step within unlocking the capabilities in our analytics. And why? Really the common vernacular is getting all of the language that Lauren was just talking about and making sure that we're all talking on the same page, right? Common language, KPIs, and goals. Are the KPIs the right KPIs to generate holistic views of the performance? And what I mean by that is KPIs can be department specific. And one KPI in one department may not be the best KPI for the full enterprise or property. So really making sure we're establishing common goals throughout all departments. A holistic view, an enterprise or property-wide view of our common vernacular will really start setting the stage for success as we move on through the framework.
I want to, before we go too far on that one, if we can go back just for a second, this has been the most intriguing conversation with Michael and I putting this deck together and Michael working on this deck. The vernacular is one of the key elements to what we were talking about as being the most achievable goal or the most realistic reality to our conversation of the blend between the marketing and the revenue management. You've heard it. We're not the first to tell you that revenue management and marketing have to work together. You've heard it over many different spectrums. This is the actual rubber meets the road way of doing this. And I'll give you a prime example that we both agreed to. Michael went over and made a great comment that when he said that metrics that span across divisions, not specific to one. Well, I'm going to give an example of one and why it doesn't do what exactly we talked about. This was kind of a light bulb moment for us when we talked. We use ROAS in marketing, return on ad spend. That's a great number for us. It's a great metric for us. It's a measurability. It's an accurate number. It's a usable number, except for when you get out of the marketing spectrum. Because in point, I can take a revenue opportunity that Michael gives me, and I can go and do a marketing campaign and have great return on ad spend. Problem was the revenue generation was either inconsequential to the overall revenue potential necessary for what Michael had to do for forecasting and horizon view revenue management. And secondly, I might have sold a terrible low-priced item but had great ROAS. So because I sold the cheapest thing and had great return on ad spend and I'm beating my chest like Tarzan, doesn't mean we succeeded. Yet my metric in my division said I did a great job, but in the world of what we had to do cross-divisionally, it's like, eh. So these are the kind of the incremental things of when it comes to coming to a common vernacular. You can use it within your division to define your division's progress within your spectrum, but it has to be able to be tangibly translated out of your division across other divisions so they can be shared and understood. And we're just not talking about revenue management. We're talking about operations. We're talking about so much more sales, everything else. It's creating that common vernacular. It was one of the, for me, the light bulb moments of one of our conversations in developing this deck.
Great point, Lauren. So next, or step 3 here, is the integrity in our data. And really, from an analytics perspective, this is really identifying what data we have. IT or information management are good partners during this step of the framework. Really making sure each area of the business has their data sources, which need to be combined or joinable. So this is really that data-intensive step of the framework. What data we want to put into our data model? Why do we want to put it into our data model? What are we going to get out of the data from which we're putting into this data model? So really making sure that this is accurate, that this is joinable. So in terms of your aggregation, is it aggregated at the same level? Is it going to be all in one consistent, accurate data model that we can pull from. That's really what we're trying to do here in step 3, integrity of data.
And my little contribution to the conversation at this level is that statistical bending. I use that as a reference because all too often statistics are used to the benefit of the presenter. And because of that, you can imply anything by how do you infer the data. And my quick, easiest example that most people will relate to is 4 out of 5 dentists agree. Well, that means you have a 20% disapproval rating. Is that a good threshold or a bad threshold? So using statistical bending to justify or validate your numbers without it truly going to the commonality of a KPI, going back to the vernacular and common data, means that you're not talking at the same level. You can always psychobabble each other by trying to work around the numbers. They're the same numbers, but they're not being seen the same way. Accept the common vernacular, accept the common data streams, and agree on how to interpret the same data is the key element to that process.
Correct. Thank you, Lauren. The transparency is up next. So really, transparency cannot be practiced until we achieve data integrity. That's why this is right after that step. Once we have it, we know our capabilities within the data. The most important thing about transparency is we're being able to say, here is what the data is during version 1 of this process. Here's what it isn't. Don't shoot for the stars in the first version. Get what you can get at the aggregated levels and get that into the first version. We call this agile, right? Agile development. And what we really want to do here is get something out to market, and those future-looking things, we want to get that in the next. So we need to be transparent with each other, not shoot for the stars, understand what we have now, and understand what we're trying to build for the future.
Mm-hmm. And to that, I want to add one last thing to that, and that is when it comes to the transparency, is to be one of the first questions that should always be asked is, what's the goal set for this? Not a carrot on a stick as to we want to be better than where we are now, but actually what is the actual definable KPI? What is the measurability of what we're looking for? Commonality between division, not my ROAS number, not his rev par, it's what is the actual tangible number that we're both shooting for so that our metrics match the data we're getting to the goal that's been set. That's the transparency value of that.
Good point. Thank you, Lauren. So here we're at the step where we're basically building that trust. We have our first data model. We have transparency in our data. Now we're trying to get buy-in, right? So we're at the point of that framework cycle where we're starting to begin to see the fruits of our labor. We have our new enterprise level KPIs, insights across all departments, and we're beginning to see trust built between departments as to why we're starting this whole analytical framework in the first place.
I will just go over and throw in the fact of the own what is yours portion of it. Fail fast, fail quick, learn quickly, share the failures as well as the acknowledgments of the successes, but make sure that you don't immediately look at what is outside of your own participation to it, because that is the killer of all collaborative projects. When you start redefining your role into success and failure and shunning the failures away and absorbing the successes, you'll never gain that trust, which is critical element to a collaborative divisional communication. Great.
All right. So enabling business decisions. Now this one's pretty much it's very comprehensive. This is bringing your data model to life. This is making sure that you're choosing now your visual analytics software that you're going to layer on top of your data model. Really making sure that your KPIs are being able to be seen in a more visual way, not the reporting way that we're used to, really coming into the future. So now we're seeing our marketing KPIs layered on top of our revenue management KPIs. Could be more divisions, could be operational, it could be from sales, etc. It's all included in this data model. The benefits of seeing that holistic picture will really help towards our ultimate goal now of optimal mix and profit optimization, which is what the committee was starting to do in the first place, why we installed this committee in the current state.
Mm-hmm. And to this is an interesting one where Michael had a much more stern statement into this and decided to soften it a little bit. But the idea of this was that there are times, no matter just because you can do a campaign for those who are in marketing, doesn't mean you should, because there are times where you need to focus on the channel of opportunity for the good of the business, and not because you want to do a niche market that you know you can get some sort of gain in return that's cute and fun, but absolutely not contributing to the level that it should for the entire business model. So sometimes some stuff basically has to get shut off while you focus on the stuff that has to get paid for.
Correct. And what is the result now? This is basically showing our new visual way to monitor our holistic KPIs. We have some examples of some providers of data services, SAS, Sisense, Power BI, Tableau, Domo. You can go with so many options. Some of them are free. Power BI, for example. Here's a screenshot of a Power BI. These KPIs seen on one page could be refreshed hourly, could be refreshed daily. You could have alerts set up to changing business conditions. You can have capabilities to now create strategies that drive tactics to reach your goals, and a holistic view of these as well. So this is how revenue management decisions impact your digital marketing KPIs and vice versa. A great way to see your data and the framework that you've just built on analytics really come to action.
Let me just add one thing to that I want to make sure that people understand when it goes back to just the steps that we're talking about. Communication and trust is also honesty, where if you look at those charts and those things and you don't understand what you're supposed to understand from them, then it is your obligation to raise your hand and say, I know you're not trying to make me feel inferior or different. I'm not understanding the graphic the way you designed it, the data the way you pulled it. If we're going to create this commonality of language and commonality of data, I need to understand what this graph means to me. What is my action item out of this graph other than having just a graph that says, here's your segmentation, here's your trend, whatever it is. If there's not a definable action item from what the graphic data represents to you, then it is a useless graphic data representation. It needs to be a shared common one that's understood. Sales needs to understand it as easily as operations, marketing, and revenue management. Everybody has to understand what the data is from. People will use it differently, but they need to understand it the same.
Correct. So the last step of the framework is really continuous improvement, right? So it's what did we learn? How do we run this cycle once or twice per year, make sure that we're adding what we need to add, that we're removing what we haven't used, keeping the data model fresh, keeping it relevant, and making sure that this process, this cycle that we just ran, is something that we're doing within the Profit Optimization Committee on a biannual or annual basis, so that we're constantly growing in terms of what we're looking at and how we're looking at it. All right, so now we're pretty much getting to the point with, okay, what's the so what? What are we doing with this data model, right? So optimizing mix based on channel economics, we now have the capability to do this. Now, I know this has been talked at in the last 5 years at every single revenue optimization conference or digital marketing conference. What are we doing to actually optimize our mix based on channel economics? So I'm just going to basically point the picture into what we should be doing once we have our analytical framework built. Here you can see the channels through which a guest can book a room. And if you go through this, how much does the guest spend on a room? That's the first layer that we need to do to optimize mix. Then we have to add the ancillary revenues. Once a guest arrives, how much is spent on property? So now that we've built that top line of the equation in our channel economics, we have to understand how much does it cost to acquire that guest. So acquisition costs, everything from the sales managers that are acquiring these guests, to the actual things that we're throwing in. So is it, do we have acquisition costs on any buffet offers, things like that? These are now included by channel so that we could see through our analytical framework how much we are spending to acquire said guests. Digital marketing, obviously, those KPIs are going to come into this equation. Next, from an IT perspective, it may be from a transactional cost perspective, how much does it cost to actually process the guest's reservation? So we know that we have varying distribution cost differentials between our different channels. Brand.com, Expedia, obviously heavy on the commissions. Virtuoso and AAA booking through the GDS has a GDS fee. The call center, heavy on labor. Brand.com, still has some expenses, especially on the acquisition side, the media. So all of this needs to be factored in, and what we get at the end is that tracked contribution margin. So really, given the variation in the guest economics, how do we incentivize the guests to book through channel A, B, C, or D? And that's really what we're trying to do here at the end of the day with this profit optimization team. So in order to do this, we need to understand our channel behaviors. So here, the booking channel, right? How does a guest book a room? What is the average profitability of the guest? We now have access to that data through our data model. We need to put that together and we need to understand it. That's where we are in our current state. Direct or indirect, online or offline. What products are we using to acquire these guests? Are we acquiring them through rates? wholesale group, best available, promotions, value adds, media. How are we acquiring these guests and getting them through our channels? And then finally, the customer type. So in our current state, this is where we are. What type of customer is booking rooms in each channel? How are they behaving differently, right? Is the Expedia guest spending guest on their ancillary spending habits, dining or spa or entertainment? We really have to identify these segments within each channel based on their variations. And I'll tee this up for Lauren. This is a fun slide to look at.
This is a fun one that we had a conversation about as well, too, because unfortunately right now what we're focusing in on is demographic profiling, being able to identify people for static information associated with them garnered from the channels that they've approached us on. And to Michael's great example that he's about to show, these two people, based on the data that we're able to pull at this particular time, seem to be apparently the same person, if not exactly twins to this point. But as Michael's about to show you, they are
coming. There we go.
There we go. Not exactly the same person. I think one of the best examples that we see in current advertising at this point is Trivago's attempt to identify the fact that an individual traveler travels for different reasons. It's common sense. We understand that. But unfortunately, from a marketing sense, we don't have that luxury of knowing the intent as much. Now, when we get to the future aspect of our conversations, that's about to change. But for right now, we have to base it on tangible specifics like this. And as you can easily see, those tangible specifics do not necessarily lend to a properly defined marketing strategy based on the individuals if we were to just identify them this way.
Yes, that's a great segue from current state to future state. And that's really what we wanted to show here, is this is kind of where we are right now in terms of taking channel behaviors, bucketing them into segments, which is not a bad place to be, but there's so much opportunity for the future. And that's what we're going to spend the rest of the presentation on today. So you can see here, where we're really at is the future state. So silos no longer exist between revenue management and digital marketing analytics, we'd hope. Finance, sales, operations, all the data flowing through our data model so that we can be able to monitor and strategize around our holistic views of performance. So really, as we get into this rhythm, we're going to start realizing that there's still opportunities to automate some of our strategies. Right now, we have the analytics, but it's not being focused through machine learning, AI, and represented within our booking path or throughout the customer journey. So really where we want to go today is show how we can take our analytics, and you can see that here, and really start building that in through an automation in your technology stack to bring this into the booking and reservation system. Once we get this analytics through algorithms into our in our future state, our analytics, we can start really making some meaningful changes. For example, in our old, you can see RM, for example, revenue management, they may use the analytics on the left-hand side to manually go into the RMS and make some rate changes. For direct marketing, that may lead for us to change a room sort order based on some of the analytics we have on a particular page to increase our conversion, still doing that manually. The opportunity in the future is really to take that data and build it into algorithms and layer that onto our booking engine. This way, each and every single guest starts with a clean slate in terms of our booking engine, and it's personalized to them at the path of the booking level, at the customer level. This obviously needs investments in your technology stack, but this is something that needs to happen in that future state if we want to be successful and start stealing share and bringing share back to our brand.com and our direct channels.
This is the part where I don't interrupt with you because you usually get on a good roll. So I'm just going to let you ride with this one and jump in when I can.
Cool. All right. So I'm going to try and explain what we mean by bringing in AI to the equation. So here you can see this is our technology and automation and our booking engine. You can see PMS, our property management system, central reservation system, revenue management system, our CRM, third-party data services, and campaign management software. Together, all connected, interconnected into our booking engine. Now, the algorithms and the strategies behind the algorithms actually comes from our data model, right? We know what is happening. Now we need to be able to take that and say, hey, in this scenario with this customer from this channel coming into our brand.com, this is what we're going to do, and this is when we're going to do it. So you can see here, This would lead to conversion optimization and true customer personalization. So that's great, but how? How is that going to be done? How are we really going to start optimizing conversion by personalizing the booking path? So see here, imagine having the power to shape what rate is offered to a known or an unknown guest, what room type shows first, what promotions or packages display, and what add-ons display based on their loyalty profile. That's the kind of stuff that we're talking about. We could even build in for unknown customers and known customers, third-party data. What flight did they book? What were they searching? What hotels did they look at on their review sites? Any information available through cookie data, bringing that into the booking path and personalizing it towards them. So that level of personalization will really give us the ability to test and learn in real time what conversion algorithms work, what don't, what are highest, what are not, and automatically revise our strategies based on this machine learning capabilities. So it's going to be something that will really start bringing a differentiation between brand.com and those third parties that really truly can't customize rate or customize the delivery in this way.
And I have to say, then I made this comment when we were first putting the deck together. Michael first presented this slide. As simplistic as this looked, this is the most, or one of the most important slides of the deck that you can take home today to think about, because this is the integration process that is what is going to be stepping forward. Without this adaptability that each of the facets represent and the ability to customize the experience and engagement with your guest, you will not be in the front of being able to take the opportunity to sell your own inventory. You will have to rely on others to do this for you, because they will have the component interactions that this represents, and you won't, and you're going to rely on them to do this. You become reliant on outside sourcing. So take it to heart. This is where this is going. Correct.
So now we'll talk about the value prop. So why would we spend all this money on our technology stack from a guest perspective? Well, the guest sees personalized loyalty pricing based on their customer value, which comes right from the CRM. Personalized room sort order based on their preferences. Maybe they stayed in those rooms prior, or maybe we just picked that up from the algorithm based on what kind of flight they booked. Did they book a first class ticket? Hey, we're going to show them a suite. Personalized promotions and add-ons based on CRM and third-party data. Additional trigger-based pre-arrival opportunities if they book through brand.com with our true personalization engine. And really what that leads to is a seamless experience from booking to mobile check-in. Here's what the third parties have to offer. You know, from this perspective, they really can't. They're parity channels. They really can't do everything that we can do from a brand.com perspective. Well, I know our owners and asset managers are going to ask, well, this is all great, but what do we get out of it, right? So here's an operator value proposition. Think about how huge these things could really be. Personalization enhances the customer experience, right? It builds on your brand. Operators finally have a viable way to shift share from the third parties, right? So we know overall brand.com from our channel economics and our data model is going to be a cheaper channel than driving commissions to third-party operators. So now we have a viable solution through technology and customer experience to start stealing that share back. Be the most advanced booking engine out there. Investments in technology and automation will lead to higher margins. It may be a higher upfront cost, but ultimately this will start reducing your costs over the long term. Operators can benefit and understand their customers' wants and needs, right? We're able to do test and learn in real time. We're able to know what drives conversion and what not just sit there, pick our nose and guess, right? So the team can test, measure, and learn what really is driving our business. Third parties, they're not going to have much there. All right. So we're going to get to the fun part, because right now, everyone in revenue management, our current state, minus a few, really sees the end of their job after the booking. What we have to understand is that this journey has just begun. Conversion does not end after the booking.
Should I start humming that song right now? We've only just begun.
I'm going to have to get the music in there for the real thing.
Music in there for the real thing, yep.
That's right. All right. So now we see where we are here. This is a customer journey. And we're just going to basically roll through this with an example. Meet Ann Roberts. She's 45 years of age. She's a VP of marketing, frequent flyer, member of our brand loyalty program. We're going to take a look at her customer journey through her lens, from search to re-engagement, really starting at that search. This is the full customer journey with everything that we've just discussed in the future state. And it's really eye-opening to what we're going to be able to do in the future. So here you can see searching and booking. Anne is looking for a weekend getaway at a hotel with a spa. She brings her search using meta-search online travel agencies and review sites to do this. She compiles a short list and decides on what property she wants to stay at. So one of her decision points was based on staying at this brand before on previous occasions in other cities, right? Brand loyalty. She's already a known guest. Before choosing where to book, she heads over to the brand.com site after looking to see if the rates are in parity. Everyone does this, right? In the searches now, you're using 4 different websites. You're going to use the OTAs. You may use Meta. You may use brand.com. Usually you're searching all of those pain points. So here, she gets to brand.com, and this is where things get really, really fun. The booking engine, after she puts in her dates, begins to do an API call to gather all the information and personalize the booking engine process. So from previous days on her profile, the room sort order is optimized to show deluxe rooms first. A spa package is displayed first on main availability, given her search criteria from third-party cooking data. She looked at spas. She ultimately decides to book the members-only rate on brand.com in the deluxe room type, giving her the best possible offer she was able to find. The reservation add-ons highlight spa treatments, but at this time, she wants to do a little bit more research before committing to a spa treatment at this time. So great. We just converted that brand.com booking after she did all that third-party research. Now we're ready to move on to the next step in her journey.
And for those paying attention, if you're a Star Trek Next Generation fan, we did not make it out of the asteroid belt in 35 minutes.
That's right. We will, though.
So, we will.
We get to the next part in her journey. So she goes on the mobile app. In the lead up to the weekend that she's booked for her getaway, she visits the mobile app and searches through spa treatments. She spends time looking at a few options and reads through them vigorously. They all sound so great. After spa, she heads over to photos of the deluxe room type, but also checks out some photos of a few suite options. So at that point, we append all of that data into her customer profile in the CRM in real time. Then, 7 days prior to arrival, campaign management deploys a trigger-based marketing alert on her app with customized offerings based on her mobile activity. The spa treatments she looked at on the app are all there, as well as the suite upgrade offer. It's like we're following her. She decides to book her appointment through the app, which displayed real-time spa availability over her dates. So it really showed her what our real-time availability is through the spa software. Remember, everything is interconnected now. This is one of the reasons why she booked. She wanted to make sure that she can get into the spa before it's too late. So the success now of the TBM campaign, or the trigger-based marketing, converted that spa booking. We haven't yet converted the suite upgrade, but we still have another shot. So we're going to get to her arrival experience. Here you can see, this is her, hold on, just went one slide too fast here. There we go. All right. All right, so we get to, sorry, wrong mouse. Boop, boop. There we go. All right, so we get to the front desk. During lineup, and lineup, for those who don't know, the front desk has the lineup process. They go over the check-ins for the day, VIPs, etc. So during the lineup, the front desk manager goes over the upsell strategies for the day based on personalized incremental reservation or recommendations from the RMS. So the RMS spits out the recommendations for the upsells for the day for the front desk to make. They also go over previous offers made from the TBM, trigger-based marketing. So once Anne arrives, the hotel offers her an upgrade to the suite she was interested in, but we know not to offer her the same price as what we offered her during trigger-based marketing, right? So we offer her $10 less. She accepts. So now we know that we're working with analytics on all price points that we offered her. We offered her the suite at the time of booking. We offered her another chance to book that suite upgrade through trigger-based marketing, and we also upgraded her at the desk, $10 less than trigger-based marketing. So we have successfully now driven conversion on the deluxe room type on brand.com through our sort algorithm. Now we have done the spa, and we've also done the upsell into a suite via the front desk. That's 3 conversions, and she hasn't even gotten to her room yet. So now she goes to play. After the spa day, she exits the spa, and she drops by the concierge to talk about dinner. So the concierge, a real person, not technology, with real access to the CRM information where all of this is being appended to, she sees little information on Anne in terms of her dining preferences. So we may not have the data at this point in our CRM, which I think is a good example. So now what we're going to do is actually append some information based on their conversation. So the conversation about their food preferences for the evening and in general are cordial, and she decides to dine at the award-winning Italian restaurant on property. So after the conversation, the concierge puts all of that from their conversation into the CRM notes so that anywhere within the brand, in any location, in any city, can use that for future targeting. We could also use that in the email re-engagement. So now you can see on the way to dinner, Anne's feeling so good, she tweets. She tweets, feeling so relaxed after a great spa treatment at the hotel. So what happens? The social media team picks up on her tweet and direct messages Anne back and invites her to the morning yoga class. So it's very important. Why did they invite her to the morning yoga class? So the social media team is actually using predictive analytics provided by the Profit Optimization Committee to cross-sell all opportunities that match based on their activities. So really, they have a list of, hey, if a person is tweeting about the spa treatment, they have a really, really good propensity to join our morning yoga class. So that's what they offered through a direct message back. Anne actually joins the class for the next day, and she's also really, really in touch with that personal touch there. All right. So we're getting to that part of the customer journey where she's set to depart. So she checks out after a great experience and immediately writes a positive review upon returning home. After all of the touch points from her stay, the folio, the human interaction are all appended to her profile in real time. So a few months later, she receives an offer for a week-long getaway, and she plans to redeem. So here we can see, for the first time, really the ecosystem, right? So this is the full customer journey based on all of the departments and the centers of excellence throughout the hotel and throughout the operation. So this is really an ecosystem of analytics, right? This is the topic of today's discussion. The intersection of analytics happening throughout this ecosystem is really what's driving that guest's journey from an analytics perspective, automation, but also a lot of human interaction. And that's very important, right? Because each area or each center of excellence benefits from the conversion optimization throughout all areas of the enterprise. The digital marketing team is rewarding conversion and ROAS growth through their departmental KPIs. The operations team saw their highest guest satisfaction scores to date. The upsell revenues at the front desk are the highest they've ever been. Outlet occupancy at the spa and restaurants are consistently better than average. Tipped employees are starting to see additional earnings from their engagement with the CRM and other analytics available to them. So really, at the end of the day, the revenue management, the finance teams, the digital marketing teams, they're all seeing the highest levels of EBITDA, which is really a high-level KPI across the enterprise or property after optimizing this business mix, driving the profitability through all areas of their business.
I'll drop in one thing. The reason why you see marketing going two directions to the left-hand side. If you picture this in the gauze of the circular event behind it, marketing reinstitutes its relationship value once the departure has happened, because then there's now the cultivation of lifetime value, incubation, workflow, communication, and things begin to reconstitute again. Because, of course, as we all know, a returning guest is much more valuable because of the reduction in cost of attainment than it is to get a captured new guest to this. So keeping that cultivated relationship after their departure is just as critical as the volume of work necessary to have gained them at the very beginning. So you see the marketing area in a very two-dimensional way go both ways.
Great point. And really, it's all based on touch points throughout each of the departments and making sure that CRM is getting all of the data and analytics possible, because that's really what's going to drive this process. So here, you can see really all of this is enabled by big data and predictive analytics, which is really our future state. And in close, we'll really just touch on a few of the main points here. The silos of RM and DM are really in the past. Given the trends of increasing share of online distribution, these teams need to work in unison. The days of reporting are numbered. You know, hospitality companies are a little late to the game, but we're finally entering that world of analytics with the growing complexity of our data. We need to build that analytical framework that we went through today in the current. In order to remain competitive, we need to invest in technology in order to achieve true personalization and conversion optimization. We need to get out of the bucketing business, and we need to really offer one customer, based on that customer at that time, at that price, on that day. A completely customized journey, and we can do it with technology. Each department will definitely play a role within the future of what I call the analytically enabled customer journey. And that's because we cannot do it without every single touch point throughout their stay, not just before their stay, not just during, after as well, the full customer journey.
And with that, that is our, I would say, long version of our presentation. Michael, thank you for, again, the privilege of being able to work with you on this and really the opportunity to speak with you. And I mean, I have to say, coming through this process, thinking through slowly the processes of what you wanted to point out, brought new ideas together. I appreciate that, the heck out of that, actually, when it comes to especially the vernaculars and common divisions and so forth that we came out of all this with. So I hope those are the takeaways. There are some keynote slides to this. Because we're doing recording now, we can talk like, because we don't really care. It's, plus we're comfortable, so all's good. So those people that are watching this, I have to say that some of the greatest things I got out of this was the fact that we say that you want to be friends. You say you want to work in non-siloed relationships, but you keep data to yourself. You use terminology that's not shareable. Your trust is based on the suspicion of success. Your collaboration is based on culpability. There's lots of things. There's landmines through all of this process that 35 minutes, 45 minutes, heck, 2 days isn't going to get solved. It's taken years, and we're not even getting close to making these solutions yet. So these are all realities to this that have to be addressed in your own environment of politics and corporate structure and team players and property level and everything else that goes on with this, because then you have the strata of corporate engagement versus property engagement versus departments within each one of them. There's such complexity to this. But if you take the fundamentals of what Michael's put together, if you take the fundamentals of common vernacular, common communication, baseline trust, simple same goals that are translatable, non-divisional analytics reporting that's shareable, you start with the fundamentals. That's the real rubber meets the road next step stuff, so that you're not just hearing it in presentations and conferences. Oh, revenue management, marketing have to work together. No, this is how you do it. Michael has laid out a roadmap of how to do this. Think it through, look back on the slides. Michael, can they reach you? Can they come out and talk to you sometime? Is there an email you want them to make sure that they have? What do you want them to do?
Yes, I will definitely add that to the end of the slide that we post. And I'll make sure to get you my contact information. Feel free to reach out if you ever have any questions. It's something that we've gone through personally at MGM. And I really think we built a good base of how to attack that current state, how to build that analytical framework, and obviously how to set yourselves up for success as we start developing tech stacks, whether you just choose to do it in-house through your own technology team, or you leverage some of the RMS technology that some of the RMS players are working on right now. Either are great options. So really, feel free to reach out. Love to help and chat with you, see what we can do.
Now, if you got this presentation based on the bit.ly link we gave you, bit.ly/HSMAI digital, then the links, the email, Michael's email will be there. And of course, the slideshare deck that you see here will be there, as also the playback for the live version if you were there, because that's where you're going to get the bit.ly from, and this play version as well. So, Michael, I think at this point, I'm just going to hit the stop button. We're done for this portion of it. What do you think?
I think it's great. Thanks for watching, everyone.
Thank you.